Have you ever said something nasty or hurtful, but then later you regret saying it? Maybe you felt threatened and you've reacted with physical force, but afterwards you realize you got too aggressive. If you're working to stop hurting your partner, discovering the story you're telling yourself can make a big difference in your ability to stop violent and abusive behavior. Hi, I'm Michael Clark with the Ananias Foundation. In this video, we're going to talk about this concept of how when someone says or does something to us, we tend to react not to what they did, but to the story we tell ourselves about what they did. Importantly, we're going to look at how we can tell ourselves a different story and get a different, better result. If you want to stop causing harm in your relationships, you're on the right path. This is Journey of Change, a video series to help you become the safe, loving partner you were meant to be. If you're working to stop acting in ways that harm your partner and get you into trouble, advice like, just don't say those things, isn't really helpful. Trying to change our behavior without getting to the source of our behavior doesn't work. Let's go deeper and discover the roots of our actions. Here's what happens when we get upset. First, the event occurs. Someone says or does something. Our senses send a message to our brain with what we saw or heard. Then, our brain interprets that message. In other words, we tell ourselves a story about what just happened. If that story somehow threatens our sense of well-being, it creates some very powerful emotions. These negative emotions generate a strong urge to change the situation or stop whatever is causing that feeling. We can act to protect ourselves and our interests, even though we might not need to. Note, we react to the story as if it's real. Now, here's the problem. Often, the story our mind created is not real, and we overreact. We see the situation as threatening, even though it's not. Then we say or do something that is harmful to another person when we really didn't need to. Here's an example. Let's say you're meeting a friend for lunch. You arrive at the lunch spot at the agreed upon time, but your friend is late. 5, 10, 15 minutes pass, and your friend is still not there. If you tell yourself the story that your friend is rude and inconsiderate, that they don't care about your friendship or respect your time, then you're likely to feel hurt and angry. When your friend walks in 20 minutes late, you might act on those emotions and tell them off. You're so rude. You don't care about me. Now, what if you told yourself a different story about this situation? What if, instead, you told yourself that your friend must have been in an accident or had a family emergency? In that case, you're likely to feel worried and approach your friend with concern when they arrive. Are you okay? Did something happen that caused you to be late? Finally, what if you had a very busy morning and told yourself yet a different story about your friend's tardiness? Maybe that story could be that it was an excellent chance for you to catch up on messages or enjoy some quiet time. In that case, you're likely to feel gratitude and welcome your friend with appreciation. Hey, I don't know that you know this, but that extra 20 minutes that you gave me a chance to catch up and relax. Thank you. Hopefully you can start to see how each of these starts with the same situation. But when we tell ourselves a different story about that event, it creates a very different emotion. And when we experience different emotions, we're likely to act differently. When we feel a powerful negative emotion like hurt or fear, we feel the need to change something in our environment so we don't have to experience that emotion. We may try to control other people with our anger, intimidation, guilt tripping, manipulation, or other abusive behavior. Instead, if we create smaller, easier to handle emotions, we don't feel as threatened. Therefore, we don't feel the same pressure to change our circumstances or stop the threat. We don't take our uncomfortable feelings out on the people around us and hurt our relationships in the process. Understanding how all this works in our mind gives us a powerful tool for changing our reactions and stopping our overreactions. I'd like to point out that the most troublesome stories that we tell ourselves are ones that result in us feeling like there's a threat to our sense of well-being. We imagine the situation indicates something bad about our value or our lovability. Then we react as if we must prove that it's not true. Here are some examples. When the story concludes that I'm a failure, or I'm stupid, or I'm incompetent, or the story implies that we don't measure up, or we're not worthy of respect, or we're not important, we're going to experience a very strong negative emotion. If any story implies that we're not likable or lovable, we'll fight like our life depends on it, like our life depends on proving someone wrong or stopping them from thinking or saying so. So how do we stop telling ourselves the crazy story and instead respond to reality? The process starts with gaining an awareness of what's happening in our mind. What emotions are we feeling? What thoughts are we creating that are creating those emotions? If you're like me, you might not even be aware or mindful of what you're feeling or thinking in these situations. Something happens and we react without any awareness of our emotions or thoughts. However, we can replay the incident later and ask ourselves, what was the story I was telling myself? It may take some time and thought to figure it out, but keep digging until you discover a story that explains your powerful emotions. Now that you've identified the story, see if you can challenge it. Is your story the only possible story that you can create from what just happened? What I'll tell you is there's always a different story we can tell ourselves, including one that will create a smaller, easier to manage emotion. Knowing that we typically make up stories that are worst-case scenarios should help us be skeptical about the story that we just told ourselves. Often, we'll see how silly or untrue that story is. If you can't think of a different story, and if it's possible, maybe ask the other person about it. You might say something like, "Hey, this happened, and here's the story I'm telling myself about it. Can you help me sort out what's true?" This is a soft, non-threatening way to ask without making the other person defensive. This process of figuring out the story we're telling ourselves and challenging it doesn't change our reaction from the last time. However, it gives us a different way of thinking about a similar situation when we run into them in the future. And that's how you can make permanent changes. Fewer things will start to bother you, and the ones that still do will bother you less and less, so you can respond in a better, less damaging way. I'm Michael Clark with the Ananias Foundation, and I hope you found this discussion about the stories we tell ourselves to be helpful. Take care, and I'll see you in another video. Thanks for joining me today. I'm honored to be on this journey of change with you, and I hope I've helped you in some way. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you. Also, be sure to hit the like button, share this with others who might find it helpful, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our future videos. For more resources, head to our website, ananiasfoundation.org. Until next time, take care and remember, change is possible.